The Discovery Captain Maria Santos pressed her palm against the cool metal wall of the research vessel Stellar Dawn and felt the familiar vibration of the engines humming beneath her feet. After 15 years of space exploration, she still found comfort in that steady rhythm. It reminded her that she was alive, moving through the vast emptiness between stars, searching for answers to questions that had puzzled humanity for generations. The bridge of the Stellar Dawn was cramped but efficient. Unlike the massive military vessels she had once served on, this ship was built for discovery, not destruction. Every surface was covered with scientific instruments, data screens, and communication arrays. The crew of 8 had been working together for 3 years, and they moved around each other like dancers who knew every step by heart. Dr. James Chen sat hunched over his analysis station, studying mineral samples they had collected from the planet below. His black hair was messy from running his hands through it, a habit he developed when he was excited about a discovery. At 32, he was the youngest member of the crew, but his expertise in xenorchaeology made him invaluable. To their mission, Sarah Mitchell, the ship's communications officer, monitored the long-range sensors from her position near the main screen. She was a quiet woman with steady hands and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her job was to keep them connected to Earth and watch for any signs of danger in the space around them. Lieutenant Commander Alex Rodriguez handled navigation and security. He was a former military officer like Maria, with the kind of calm confidence that came from facing danger and surviving. His dark eyes constantly scanned the displays, watching for threats that might emerge from the darkness of space. The rest of the crew was scattered throughout the ship, each focused on their own specialized tasks. Dr. Elena Vasquez worked in the medical bay, analyzing biological samples. Engineer Tom Parker maintained the ship's systems in the engine room. Pilot Jessica Williams prepared for their next planetary landing. Sensor specialist David Kim monitored the deep space arrays for any unusual readings. They had been exploring the Kepler 442 system for 2 weeks, studying the planets and moons for signs of ancient civilizations. The system was located in what galactic charts called the neutral zone, a region of space that no major empire claimed as their territory. It was the perfect place for human researchers to work without interference from the larger galactic powers. Everything changed when they found the artifact. Dr. Chen's excited voice crackled through the ship's communication system. "Captain, you need to see this. We've discovered something incredible in the Northern Canyon." Maria made her way to the analysis lab, her boots clicking against the metal floor. The lab was filled with equipment that could examine objects at the molecular level, determine their age, and analyze their composition. In the center of the room, floating in a containment field, was an object unlike anything she had ever seen. The artifact was roughly the size of a human head, made from a material that seemed to shift between silver and gold depending on the angle of the light. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a soft blue radiance that pulsed like a heartbeat. It was beautiful and mysterious, clearly the work of an advanced civilization. "How old is it?" Maria asked, leaning closer to examine the symbols. "That's the incredible part," Dr. Chen replied, his voice filled with wonder. "According to our dating methods, this artifact is at least 50,000 years old, but the energy readings suggest it's still active. Whatever civilization created this, they were far more advanced than anything we've encountered." Sarah's voice came over the intercom, interrupting their discussion. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from an approaching vessel. It's not human." Maria felt her stomach tighten. First contact with alien species was always dangerous, especially when humans were far from home and outnumbered. She made her way back to the bridge, where the main screen now displayed an image of the approaching ship. The vessel was massive, at least 3 times the size of the Stellar Dawn. Its hull was dark purple with silver markings that formed complex patterns. Across its surface, weapon systems were clearly visible along its sides, and the ship's design suggested it was built for war rather than exploration. "Any identification?" Maria asked. "They're transmitting on standard galactic frequencies," Sarah reported. "The ship identifies itself as the Dominion Spear of the Keltharian Empire. They're requesting permission to come aboard." The Keltharians were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They stood nearly 8 feet tall with reptilian features, scaled skin, and 4 arms that ended in razor-sharp claws. Their empire controlled dozens of star systems, and they were known for their aggressive expansion policies. Most importantly, they had never shown any particular friendship toward humans. "What do they want?" Alex asked, his hand moving instinctively toward the weapon's controls. The answer came through the communication system in a deep, harsh voice that sounded like grinding stone. "Human vessel, this is Commander Vex of the Keltharian Imperial Navy. We detected energy signatures from an ancient artifact in your possession. By order of the Keltharian Empire, you will surrender this object immediately." Maria looked around at her crew. They were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. The Stellar Dawn carried only basic defensive systems, nothing that could match the firepower of a Keltharian battlecruiser. But she also knew that giving up their discovery would mean losing the chance to unlock secrets that could benefit all of humanity. "Commander Vex," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "This artifact was discovered on an uninhabited planet in the neutral zone. Under galactic law, it belongs to whoever found it first." The Keltharian's laughter sounded like breaking glass. "Galactic law applies only to those with the strength to enforce it, human. You have 1 hour to transfer the artifact to our ship. If you refuse, we will take it by force." The communication ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Maria looked at her crew and saw the same mixture of fear and determination in their faces that she felt in her own heart. They had made an incredible discovery, and they were not going to give it up without a fight. "Options?" she asked. Alex checked his tactical display. "We could try to run, but their ship is faster than ours. We might be able to hide in the asteroid field, but they'd find us eventually." "What about calling for help?" Sarah suggested. "The nearest human outpost is 6 days away," Alex replied. "Even if we sent a distress signal, help wouldn't arrive in time." Dr. Chen spoke up from the back of the bridge. "Captain, I've been analyzing the artifact's energy patterns. I think it might be some kind of communication device. If we could activate it, maybe we could contact whoever built it." "That's a long shot," Maria said. "And we don't know if activating it would help us or make things worse." Before anyone could respond, the space around the Stellar Dawn began to shimmer. Points of light appeared in the darkness, growing brighter and larger until they resolved into ships. Not just 1 or 2 vessels, but dozens of them, appearing from hyperspace jumps and warp portals. Maria had never seen anything like it. The ships came in shapes and sizes that defied description. Some looked like giant crystals, others like living organisms. There were vessels that seemed to be made of pure energy, and others that appeared to be constructed from materials that didn't exist in human science. "Sarah, what are you reading?" Maria asked, trying to keep the amazement out of her voice. I'm detecting at least 40 ships, Captain. They're from species I've never seen before. Some of the energy signatures don't match anything in our databases. The communication system activated, and a new voice filled the bridge. This one was different from the Keltharian commander's harsh tones. It was melodic and gentle, like wind chimes in a soft breeze. Captain Santos of the human vessel Stellar Dawn. I am Ambassador Nexus of the Galactic Council. We have come in response to the activation of Protocol 7. Maria felt confused. Protocol 7, Ambassador. I'm not familiar with that designation. It is the emergency response system that activates when humans are threatened by superior forces, the ambassador explained. Every ship in this fleet has traveled across the galaxy to ensure your safety. Commander Vex's voice cut through the communication, filled with rage and disbelief. This is impossible. Humans are a minor species with no significant military power. Why would the Galactic Council send a fleet to protect them? Ambassador Nexus responded with calm authority. Commander, you are in violation of the Terran Protection Directive, a law that has been in effect for over 30,000 years. Any hostile action against humans will result in immediate consequences. What law? Maria asked. Ambassador, I've never heard of any protection directive. That is because your species has been shielded from this knowledge for your own protection, Nexus replied. The truth about humanity's place in the galaxy has been classified by the highest levels of your government and ours. The Keltharian commander's voice was filled with contempt. I do not recognize any law that protects these weak creatures. They have something that belongs to the Keltharian Empire, and I will take it. The response from the assembled fleet was immediate and overwhelming. Energy weapons powered up across dozens of ships, creating a light show that turned the darkness of space into a rainbow of deadly colors. The Keltharian battlecruiser, which had seemed so massive and threatening just moments before, now looked like a small toy surrounded by giants. Commander Vex, Ambassador Nexus said, his gentle voice carrying a note of steel. You have 10 seconds to withdraw from this system. If you fire a single shot at the human vessel, your ship will be destroyed, and your empire will face consequences that will last for generations. The bridge of the Stellar Dawn was completely silent as everyone held their breath. Through the main screen, they could see the Keltharian battlecruiser surrounded by alien ships, each one more advanced and powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Finally, Commander Vex's voice came through the communication system, filled with hatred but also fear. This is not over, humans. The Keltharian Empire will remember this day. The battlecruiser turned and jumped into hyperspace, disappearing into the darkness between stars. The assembled fleet began to disperse, but several ships remained in the area, clearly standing guard over the human vessel. Ambassador Nexus contacted the Stellar Dawn again. Captain Santos, I must transport aboard your vessel to explain the situation. What you have discovered today is only the beginning of a much larger story. Maria looked around at her crew, seeing the same mixture of confusion and curiosity in their faces that she felt in her own heart. They had started the day as simple researchers exploring an empty star system. Now they were apparently under the protection of a galactic fleet, saved by a law they had never heard of. Permission granted, Ambassador, she said. We have a lot of questions. The air in the center of the bridge began to shimmer, and a column of soft light appeared. When it faded, a figure stood where the light had been. Ambassador Nexus was unlike any alien Maria had ever seen. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like it was made of living starlight. His eyes were deep pools of silver that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "Captain Santos," he said, his voice filling the bridge with that same musical quality they had heard over the communication system. "I am here to tell you the truth about your species and why the entire galaxy will go to war to protect you." Maria felt her heart racing. In the span of a few hours, they had gone from making a simple archaeological discovery to being at the center of galactic politics. Whatever the ambassador was about to tell them, she knew it would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe. "We're listening," she said. Ambassador Nexus looked around at the human crew, his silver eyes taking in every detail of their faces. When he spoke again, his words would shatter everything they believed about their own species. 50,000 years ago, your ancestors nearly destroyed the galaxy, and in doing so, they saved it. Asterisk, the ancient truth, the conference room of the Stellar Dawn had never hosted anyone like Ambassador Nexus. The being of living starlight sat at the head of the table, his silvery form casting gentle patterns on the walls. All 8 crew members were present, their faces showing the same mixture of fascination and nervousness that Maria felt in her own chest. Dr. Chen had brought the artifact with him, still contained in its energy field. The ancient object continued to pulse with that mysterious blue light, and Maria noticed that the glow seemed to respond to the ambassador's presence, growing brighter when he looked at it. "Before I begin," Ambassador Nexus said, his musical voice filling the room, "I must ask you to understand that what I am about to tell you has been classified for 30,000 years. The truth about your species has been hidden not just from humanity, but from most of the galaxy." Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez leaned forward. "Why would the truth about us be classified?" "Because," the ambassador replied, "if every species in the galaxy knew what humans are truly capable of, it would cause panic on a scale that could destroy civilizations." Dr. Chen studied the artifact floating between them. "Does this have something to do with what we found?" "Everything," Nexus said. "That artifact is a memory core, created by your own ancestors 50,000 years ago. It contains the complete history of an event that changed the fate of the galaxy forever." Maria felt a chill run down her spine. Our ancestors were barely using stone tools 50,000 years ago. "The ancestors I speak of were not from Earth," the ambassador explained. "They were the previous iteration of humanity, a species that evolved on a world called Terraform Prime in what you now call the Andromeda Galaxy." The room fell silent. Sarah Mitchell, the communications officer, was the first to speak. "Are you saying that humans existed before Earth?" "Not just existed," Nexus replied. "They built an empire that spanned 3 galaxies. They created technology that could reshape matter at the quantum level. They developed weapons that could destroy entire star systems with a single shot. They were the most advanced species the universe had ever seen." Dr. Elena Busquez, the medical officer, looked puzzled. If they were so advanced, what happened to them? Ambassador Nexus stood and walked to the room's main display screen. With a gesture, he activated a holographic projection that filled the air above the table. The image showed a vast galaxy filled with thousands of star systems, each one connected by lines of light that represented trade routes and communication networks. "This was the galaxy 50,000 years ago," he said. "Every species you see here lived in peace and prosperity under the protection of the first human empire. Wars were rare, poverty was almost unknown, and scientific discovery flourished. Your ancestors were not conquerors, they were guardians. The image shifted, showing massive ships that dwarfed anything in the current galaxy. Cities that floated in space, connected by bridges of pure energy. Worlds that had been transformed into gardens of incredible beauty for 10,000 years. This golden age continued, Nexus continued. But then something went wrong. The humans began to change. Engineer Tom Parker asked the question that everyone was thinking. Changed how? They became obsessed with perfection, the ambassador explained. They began to see flaws in other species, problems that needed to be corrected. They started making modifications to entire populations, changing their DNA, their cultures, their very nature. The holographic display showed images that made Maria's stomach turn. Alien species being herded into vast processing facilities. Planets being strip-mined for resources. Fleets of human ships destroying anyone who resisted their vision of perfection. They believed they were helping, Nexus said, his voice filled with ancient sadness. They genuinely thought they were making the galaxy better. But what they were actually doing was committing genocide on a scale that had never been seen before. Dr. Chen stared at the images in horror. How many species did they destroy? Thousands, the ambassador replied. Entire civilizations were wiped out because they didn't meet human standards of perfection. The humans had become so advanced that no one could stop them. They had the technology to reshape reality itself. Pilot Jessica Williams spoke up from her position near the door. But something must have stopped them. Otherwise, they would still be here. Yes, Nexus said, his silver eyes reflecting the holographic images. They were stopped by the most unexpected force of all. They were stopped by themselves. The display changed to show a single human figure standing in what looked like a vast laboratory. The being was tall and graceful, with features that were clearly recognizable as human. Despite the advanced technology integrated into their body, her name was Dr. Zara Okafor, the ambassador said. She was one of the lead scientists working on the Perfection Project, but as she watched species after species disappear, she began to question what they were doing. The holographic Dr. Okafor was surrounded by other humans, all of them engaged in heated debate. Their faces showed the same range of emotions that Maria recognized in her own crew: confusion, anger, fear, and determination. Dr. Okafor gathered a group of like-minded humans who had begun to see the horror of what their species had become. Nexus continued. They called themselves the Redeemers, and they made a decision that would change the fate of the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez looked grim. What did they do? They declared war on their own empire, the ambassador replied. The first human civil war lasted for 3 years and tore the galaxy apart. Advanced humans fought against advanced humans, using weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Billions died in the conflict. The holographic display showed images of space battles on a scale that defied comprehension. Fleets of ships stretching across light years, engaging in combat that turned entire regions of space into burning wasteland. The war ended when Dr. Okafor and her Redeemers activated a device called the Reset Protocol, Nexus explained. It was a quantum weapon that destroyed all advanced technology in the galaxy simultaneously. Every computer, every weapon, every ship was reduced to its basic atoms in a single moment. Maria felt her breath catch. They destroyed their own civilization. They destroyed everyone's civilization, the ambassador said. The Reset Protocol didn't discriminate. It affected every species in the galaxy equally. Advanced races were thrown back to the Stone Age. Entire star empires collapsed. Overnight, Dr. Elena Vasquez looked confused. But if everyone was affected equally, How did some species recover faster than others? Because Dr. Okafor and her Redeemers had prepared for this, Nexus replied. Before activating the reset protocol, they created thousands of memory cores, like the one you discovered. These devices contained all the knowledge needed to rebuild civilization, but they were programmed to activate only when the galaxy was ready to receive that knowledge safely. The holographic display showed the aftermath of the reset protocol. Planets that had once been centers of advanced civilization were now covered in primitive settlements. Species that had traveled between stars were now struggling to create fire. The Redeemers also did something else, the ambassador continued. They used the last of their advanced technology to scatter human genetic material across the galaxy. They wanted to ensure that if humanity ever rose again, it would be in a form that could remember the lessons of the past. Sarah Mitchell's eyes widened. You're saying that humans on Earth are descendants of these advanced humans? Not descendants, Nexus corrected. You are them. Your DNA contains genetic memories of the first human empire. Your capacity for both creation and destruction, your ability to work together when facing extinction, your unique talent for learning from mistakes, all of these traits were carefully preserved by the Redeemers. The artifact in the center of the table began to pulse more rapidly, as if responding to the ambassador's words. Dr. Chen noticed the change immediately. The artifact is reacting to what you're saying, he observed. It recognizes you, Nexus. Explained. That memory core has been waiting for 50,000 years for humans to find it. It contains the complete history of the first human empire, including the technology and knowledge that your ancestors wanted to preserve. Engineer Tom Parker looked worried. Are you saying that we could become like them? That we could make the same mistakes? That is exactly what the Galactic Council fears, the ambassador replied. Your species has the potential to become the most powerful force in the galaxy. But you also have something that the first human empire lost. The memory of what happens when power is used without wisdom. Maria began to understand. That's why we're protected. The other species are afraid that if they push us too hard, we might become like our ancestors. Not afraid, Nexus corrected. Hopeful, you see. The Redeemers didn't just scatter human genetic material across the galaxy. They also embedded a set of instructions in your DNA, a kind of genetic programming that would activate under specific conditions. The holographic display showed a complex DNA structure with certain sections highlighted in bright blue. The pattern was beautiful and intricate, clearly the work of advanced science. This programming is what your military calls the pack response, the ambassador explained. When humans are threatened, especially when they are protecting others, your DNA activates dormant abilities that allow you to function as a collective intelligence while maintaining individual creativity. Dr. Chen leaned forward, fascinated. That's why humans can coordinate so effectively in crisis situations. Exactly, Nexus said. But it's more than just coordination. When the pack response is fully activated, humans can process information faster, move with perfect precision, and make decisions that seem impossible to other species. You become what your ancestors were meant to be, guardians of the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez asked the question that was on everyone's mind. What happens if we access the knowledge in that artifact? Could we become like the first human empire? That is the great test, the ambassador replied. The Redeemers designed the memory cores to activate only when humanity was ready to receive the knowledge safely. If you can access the information without losing your compassion and wisdom, you will become the guardians the galaxy needs. If you cannot, ... double quotes, He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room understood the implications. So the Terran Protection Directive exists to give us time to mature, Maria said. Yes, Nexus confirmed. Every species in the galaxy has been ordered to leave humanity alone, to let you develop naturally without interference. The hope is that when you finally reclaim your birthright, you will be wise enough to use it responsibly. Dr. Alina Vasquez looked around the table at her crewmates. What about the species that don't follow the directive? Like the Keltharians, they are reminded, sometimes forcefully, that the alternative to a protected humanity is an awakened humanity, the ambassador said. Most species prefer to wait and hope rather than risk triggering the pack response prematurely. The artifact suddenly flared with brilliant light, and the room filled with a sound like singing crystal. Everyone shielded their eyes as the ancient device began to unfold, revealing intricate mechanisms that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. It's activating, Dr. Chen said in wonder. The memory core is responding to our presence. Ambassador Nexus stood and backed away from the table. The choice is yours, Captain Santos. You can access the knowledge of your ancestors and begin the transformation that will make humanity the guardians of the galaxy. Or you can leave the artifact dormant and allow your species to develop naturally for a few more centuries. Maria looked around at her crew, seeing the same mixture of fear and excitement in their faces that she felt in her own heart. They had the opportunity to unlock secrets that could benefit all of humanity, but they also risked awakening something that could destroy everything they held dear. What do you think? She asked her crew. One by one, they shared their thoughts. Dr. Chen believed that the knowledge was too valuable to ignore. Engineer Parker worried about the risks of accessing technology they didn't fully understand. Dr. Vasquez thought that humanity needed time to mature before taking on such responsibility. Finally, Maria made her decision. We'll study the artifact carefully, but we won't activate it fully. Not yet. Humanity needs to earn its place as guardians of the galaxy, not inherit it. Ambassador Nexus smiled, his silver features radiating approval. That is exactly the kind of wisdom the Redeemers hoped you would develop. You have chosen the difficult path, but it is the right one. As the ambassador prepared to leave, he turned back to the human crew one final time. Remember, Captain Santos, you are not just explorers or scientists. You are the inheritors of the most powerful civilization the galaxy has ever known. Use that inheritance wisely. The column of light appeared again, and Ambassador Nexus vanished, leaving the crew of the Stellar Dawn alone with their incredible discovery. The artifact continued to pulse with mysterious energy, waiting for the day when humanity would be ready to reclaim its destiny as the protectors of the galaxy. Maria Santos looked around at her crew and realized that their simple research mission had become something much more important. They were no longer just explorers searching for ancient artifacts. They were the guardians of humanity's future, responsible for ensuring that when their species finally awakened to its true potential, it would do so with wisdom, compassion, and the hard-earned knowledge of what happened when power was used. Without understanding, the galaxy was watching, waiting to see what humanity would become. And for the first time in 50,000 years, there was reason to hope. Asterisk,